She accidentally sent a message calling her boss hot and arrogant, and his reaction left her speechless. Before we begin the story, leave a comment telling us what city you're watching from. And at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. Natalie Ross was known for talking too much. She was authentic, witty, and had a sense of humor that always made people laugh. But she also had a talent for getting herself into trouble with her own words. And that morning, her big mouth almost ended her career. Balancing a cup of coffee, some reports, and her phone between her shoulder and cheek, she vented to her best friend in the group chat. Or at least she thought it was the right group. Seriously, I can't take Owen anymore. That man is like a Greek god in a suit, way too handsome, but also the most arrogant and unbearable person on the planet. He's like a hot corporate dictator. She laughed to herself and hit send. A second later, the silence in the marketing room seemed to mock her. Every eye was on Natalie. A coworker nearly choked on his coffee before whispering, "You sent that to the company group." Her blood ran cold. The screen glowed in her hand. Message sent to Global Team Group. Hundreds of eyes, including Owen Carter's, the CEO. Notifications started pouring in, laughing emojis, shocked reactions, "Oh wow." And then, like something out of a horror movie, one final alert. "Owen Carter listened to your voice message." Natalie's heart started racing. No. This can't be happening, she whispered to herself, panicking. Before she could come up with a way out, firm footsteps echoed down the hall. The sound of polished shoes made the whole room fall silent. And there he was. Tall, flawless, with a cold stare that could see through someone's soul. "Miss Ross," he said in a deep, firm voice, not raising his tone. "We need to talk, now." Crossing that hallway felt like walking to the gallows. Inside his office, with a stunning view of Manhattan behind him, the silence felt heavier than any lecture. Natalie tried to speak. "Mr. Carter, that was a misunderstanding." He raised an eyebrow, almost amused. "Hot corporate dictator? Is that how you see me?" Natalie swallowed hard, wishing she could disappear. But instead of getting angry, Owen stepped closer, a small smile forming at the corner of his lips. "There are many ways I could handle this situation. I could fire you today." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "But I prefer another solution." Her eyes widened. "From now on, you'll be working directly with me. Every report, presentation, and meeting, we'll do it together. Every day." Natalie blinked, stunned. "Is this punishment?" "Let's just say, it's a re-education. This should be interesting." His smile grew, as if he had a plan in mind. She walked out of the office in disbelief. She hadn't been fired, but maybe this was worse. And as she walked back under the curious stares and whispers, one thought kept spinning in her head. Owen Carter wasn't mad. No, he was enjoying this. And Natalie knew that smile of his was only the beginning of a game that could turn her whole life upside down. The next morning, Natalie tried to pretend everything was normal. She arrived on time, greeted her coworkers with her usual smile, and sat at her desk as if nothing had happened. But how do you act normal when the CEO of the company just made your life his personal reality show? It didn't even take 15 minutes for Owen to appear. "Good morning, Natalie. I see you're right on time," he said, appearing behind her like a silent, elegant ghost in a suit. She nearly spilled her coffee. "Mr. Carter, you're very quiet these days. It's one of my many talents," he replied with that dry tone she was already starting to resent. "I need to review the sales report you prepared yesterday." Natalie frowned. "But that report isn't even from my department." "It is now. Remember our conversation yesterday?" As if she could forget. Owen pulled a chair and sat next to her, so close she could smell his cologne. A very expensive one, of course. "May I ask why you're here?" "Direct supervision, remember?" He pointed at her computer screen. "And by the way, that staple is crooked." Natalie looked at the staple holding a few papers together. "Seriously? You're checking my staples now?" "Details matter, Natalie. Just like your posture. Your back is slouched." She straightened up automatically, then realized what she had done and sighed. "Don't you have anything else to do? Like, run a company?" Owen smiled slightly. "Running a company includes making sure all employees are aligned." "Speaking of alignment, how about we schedule a meeting for 3 o'clock? "To discuss what?" "Operational efficiency." Natalie blinked. "That doesn't even make sense. I work in marketing. You work wherever I say now, he replied, standing up. Oh, and Natalie, yes, congratulations on your vocal boldness yesterday. It was very enlightening. He walked away, leaving Natalie with the urge to throw the bent paperclip at his head. At 3 o'clock, she was in the meeting room, alone, waiting. Owen came in 5 minutes later, carrying a folder and looking supremely bored. So, he said, sitting across the table, how are you adjusting to the new arrangement? Wonderfully. I love being micromanaged by someone who shows up out of nowhere to criticize paperclips. I see your usual good humor is still intact. It's a natural gift. Owen flipped through a few papers in the folder, clearly pretending to be busy. Tell me, Natalie, do you still think I'm arrogant, or have I evolved into charmingly unbearable? The question caught her off guard. Was he really quoting her audio? Well, she tilted her head, pretending to think seriously. I think you've reached a whole new level. Arrogant, unbearable, charming, and intrusive. It's practically a talent. Intrusive? You literally appear behind me without warning. It's like having a very well-dressed ghost supervisor. To her surprise, Owen almost smiled. Almost. And what do you suggest I do? Wear a bell? Or maybe announce your arrival like medieval heralds. Hear ye, the CEO is coming. This time he couldn't hide it. The corner of his mouth curved slightly. You have quite the imagination. Thank you. I have other qualities too, in case you're interested in discovering them. Owen looked at her for a moment, and Natalie felt something strange in the air, like they were playing a game neither of them really knew the rules to. How about a coffee? He asked suddenly. Now? They went to the break room, where Natalie made 2 cups of coffee while Owen watched her every move. Don't you have anything better to do? She asked, stirring the sugar. I'm doing exactly what I want to do, which is getting to know you better. The spoon stopped mid-stir. Natalie looked at him. Get to know me better? You said some very interesting things in that audio. I want to know if there's more where that came from. You want me to keep bad-mouthing you? I want you to be honest. Like you were yesterday. Natalie laughed, a genuine, amused sound. Careful what you wish for, Mr. Carter. My honesty can be dangerous. I'm willing to take that risk. She handed him the cup, and when their fingers briefly touched, she felt a strange spark. She said, trying to sound casual, what's the plan? Follow me around until I make another epic mistake? Maybe. Or maybe I just want to see what other talents you're hiding besides vocal boldness. Oh, I have plenty of talents. I can spill coffee on important people, trip over imaginary rugs, and create awkward situations out of thin air. Impressive resume. I work hard at it. They returned to the room and Owen seemed more relaxed. Natalie noticed that when he wasn't being the intimidating CEO, he was almost normal. Almost. You know, she said, sitting back down, you smile more than I expected. I do? A little. In the corner of your mouth, like you're hiding fun secrets. Owen studied her carefully. And you observe more than you should. That's another talent of mine. How many talents do you have exactly? Still figuring that out, but I can guarantee they'll all give you a hard time. This time, Owen laughed for real, a low, genuine sound that completely changed his face. I'm starting to believe that. The rest of the afternoon went by quickly, with Owen finding excuses to show up at her desk. Comments about reports, questions about projects, remarks on her posture. Natalie responded to every jab with humor and gradually realized it was turning into some kind of verbal duel. A duel she was strangely enjoying. At the end of the day, as she was packing up, Owen showed up once again. Natalie. Let me guess, my purse is messy? Actually, I need you to join me on a business trip. Tomorrow morning. She stopped arranging her papers. A trip? Portland. Investor meeting. It'll be quick. And why me? Owen gave that secret smile again. Because you're my new special assistant. Remember? Natalie looked at him, trying to figure out what he was really up to. But one thing she knew for sure, that trip would be anything but ordinary. All right, she finally said. But if you try to tell me how to pack my suitcase, I swear. Swear what? I'm still thinking about it, but it'll be creative. Owen chuckled softly and walked away, leaving Natalie with the feeling she had just agreed to a lot more than a simple business trip. The meeting in Portland went better than Natalie expected. The investors seemed impressed with Owen's presentation, and she managed not to spill coffee on anyone important, which she counted as a personal victory. But when they got to the airport at 5 in the afternoon, ready to fly back to New York, reality hit them like a bucket of cold water. Canceled? Natalie stared at the flight board in disbelief. What do you mean, canceled? Storm, ma'am. The airline employee explained with a tired smile. All flights to the East Coast have been suspended until tomorrow morning. Owen ran a hand through his hair, messing up his usually perfect look for the first time. And hotels? Well, the woman made a face. It's peak season, and with all these canceled flights, it might be hard to find one. 2 hours later, they stood at the reception desk of the only hotel in all of Portland with a vacancy. It was a modest place, but clean, clearly not used to hosting executives in $1,000 suits. 1 room with 2 beds, said the receptionist, handing them the key. That's all we have. Natalie and Owen looked at each other. The situation was awkward enough without having to share a room. No way to get separate rooms? Owen asked. Sir, you're lucky to get this one. With the storm, half the city is without power. In the elevator, the silence was so heavy that Natalie could almost feel it. Owen looked visibly uncomfortable, adjusting his tie for the 3rd time in 5 minutes. Relax, she finally said. I'm not going to attack you during the night. I promise to keep my hands to myself. He glanced at her. That's not what I'm worried about. Then what? Owen hesitated. Do you snore? Natalie burst out laughing. Seriously? That's your concern? That I snore? It's a valid question. Well, get ready to find out. The room was small but cozy. 2 twin beds with a nightstand in between, an old TV, and a window facing a busy street in Portland. Owen looked around like he was analyzing a complicated puzzle. Not fancy, but it'll do, Natalie said, tossing her bag onto one of the beds. Definitely not fancy. Oh, come on. Where's your sense of adventure? Probably left it on the private jet we couldn't take. Natalie laughed and started digging through her bag. I'm going to the corner store to grab a few things. You want anything? Like what? Real food. Maybe some chips, soda, things normal people eat when they're stuck in modest hotels. Owen looked genuinely puzzled. Chips? Wow, you really never had a normal life, did you? Natalie stared at him, amazed. Stay put, I'll be back. I'm going to introduce you to the world of junk food. When she came back 20 minutes later, she found Owen sitting at the edge of the bed, still in his full suit, staring at the TV like it was an alien object. You didn't change? She asked, dropping the groceries onto her bed. I didn't bring casual clothes. Of course you didn't. She shook her head and pulled out a bag of chips, soda, and microwave popcorn. You bought popcorn? It's tradition. Strange hotel night with a coworker requires popcorn. It's practically a federal law. Owen watched as she took off her shoes and walked to the bathroom with a smaller bag. Where are you going? To change clothes. Unlike some people, I don't sleep in a suit. When she came out, wearing pink unicorn pajamas, Owen was clearly trying not to laugh. Don't say a word, she warned, pointing a finger at him. I wasn't going to. Liar. You're laughing on the inside. Maybe a little. At least I brought pajamas. Are you going to sleep with your tie on too? Owen looked down at his clothes like he had just now realized he was still wearing them. I didn't bring pajamas. Seriously. Natalie gave him a look of genuine disbelief. Who travels without pajamas? People who usually stay in hotels that offer silk robes. Right. At least take off the jacket and tie. You look like you're heading into a meeting with the president. Hesitant, Owen took off the jacket and loosened the tie. It was the first time Natalie had seen him looking less than perfect, and she had to admit he looked even more attractive this way. More human. Better, she said, tearing open the bag of chips. Now let's eat junk food and watch bad TV like normal people. I don't eat chips. You're eating this today. She pushed the bag toward him. It's part of the experience. Owen cautiously picked up one of the orange snacks and studied it like it was a scientific specimen. Just eat it already, Natalie said, rolling her eyes. He took a bite, chewed slowly, and his expression shifted slightly. It's not terrible. High praise coming from you. She turned on the TV and started flipping through the channels. What do you usually watch? News, documentaries, economic programs. Of course you do. She stopped on an old romantic comedy. How about this? Seems frivolous. Perfect. Just what we need. As the evening went on, something strange started to happen. Owen gradually began to relax. First, he took off his shoes. Then he rolled up his shirt sleeves. And when Natalie made a particularly funny comment about the movie's main character, he laughed, a real, genuine laugh. "You're funny," he said suddenly. "Thanks. I think that's the first genuinely nice thing you've ever said to me." "That's not true." "It is. Every other comment has been either sarcastic or a disguised constructive criticism." Owen thought about it. "Maybe you're right. I'm always right. It's another one of my talents." "How many talents do you have exactly?" "Still counting." She turned to him on the bed. "And you? Do you have any talents besides intimidating employees and wearing expensive suits?" "Is intimidating employees a talent?" "Definitely. You're really good at it." Owen smiled. A real one this time, not his usual secret smirk. "What else do you want to know?" "Everything. What were you like as a kid? Were you always this serious?" "No." He hesitated, then continued. "Actually, I was pretty wild. My mom used to say I was a hurricane on legs." "No way? You?" "I swear. I once broke the living room window trying to play soccer inside the house." "What happened?" "My mom made me pay for the repairs with my allowance. It took 6 months." Natalie laughed, picturing a young and mischievous Owen. "And when did you become this serious, intimidating man?" His expression changed slightly. "When my father died, I was 16, and suddenly I had to grow up really fast." The tone of the conversation shifted, became more intimate. Natalie felt something stir in her chest, a tenderness she hadn't expected. "I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. But it still hurts." Owen looked at her, surprised by her understanding. "Sometimes." They sat in silence for a moment, watching the movie without really paying attention. "And you?" he finally asked. "Have you always been this spontaneous?" "My mom says I was born talking and never stopped." Natalie smiled. "I was that kid who asked why about everything, drove everyone crazy. I can imagine. My parents got divorced when I was 12. I think that's when I learned to use humor as a shield." "What do you mean?" "If you make everyone laugh, they don't notice you're sad inside." Owen studied her closely. "Do you still do that?" "Sometimes," she shrugged. "It works most of the time. But not always." "Not always." They looked at each other, and Natalie felt something shift in the air between them, as if they were truly seeing each other for the first time. "Do you want popcorn?" she asked suddenly, needing to break the intensity of the moment. "Sure." She walked over to the tiny microwave in the room and put the popcorn in. While she waited, Owen came closer, standing beside her. "How long does it take?" "A few minutes." She was very aware of how close he was, of the warmth radiating from his body. "Owen?" "Yes?" "You're different from what I thought." "Different how?" "More human." He chuckled softly. "Thanks. I think." The popcorn started popping in the microwave, and Natalie went to get ice from the bucket she had filled earlier. But when she turned around quickly, she bumped into Owen, who was standing right behind her. Ice went flying everywhere, some cubes hitting his chest. "Oh no!" Natalie started laughing. "Sorry." Owen looked at the ice cubes sliding down his shirt, and, to her surprise, he started laughing too. "You even managed to be clumsy with ice." "It's a special talent." She picked up a cube from the floor, and on impulse, threw it at him. Owen's eyes widened as the ice hit his shoulder. "You didn't just do that." "I did." She picked up another cube, laughing, "and I'll do it again." What followed was a completely childish and ridiculous ice war. They ran around the tiny room, laughing and throwing cubes at each other like kids. Owen, with his wet shirt and messy hair, looked years younger, and when they finally stopped, breathless and laughing, they were standing very close to each other. The laughter faded gradually. Owen raised his hand and brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Natalie," he said softly. "Yes? I..." That's when the fire alarm went off. The shrill sound filled the room, completely breaking the moment. They quickly pulled apart, looking around in confusion. "What was that?" Owen began. "Oh no, the popcorn!" Natalie ran to the microwave, where smoke was pouring out of the edges. "I forgot about the popcorn." She opened the door, and a cloud of smoke escaped, making the alarm blare even louder. The popcorn was completely burned, black as coal. "How do you even burn popcorn?" Owen shouted over the alarm. "It's another one of my talents," she shouted back, trying to wave away the smoke with a towel. It took them 10 minutes to shut off the alarm and air out the room. By the time they managed, they were exhausted, soaked from the melted ice cubes, and embarrassed by the moment that had almost happened. "Well," Natalie said, trying to break the awkwardness. At least we're not going to starve. We still have Doritos. Owen ran a hand through his wet hair. Maybe we should try to get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Yeah, you're right. They got ready for bed in silence, each avoiding looking at the other. Natalie curled up in her bed, pretending to be comfortable, while Owen lay stiff as a board. "Natalie?" he said in the dark. "Yes? No snoring, okay?" She smiled into the darkness. "You either." But neither of them really slept that night. The next morning, the flight back was almost completely silent. Owen had returned to being the cold, distant CEO, and Natalie couldn't figure out why. The man who had laughed with her and almost kissed her seemed to have completely vanished. When they got back to the office, he barely looked at her. "Thanks for coming along on the trip," he said formally. "You may return to your usual tasks." And then he disappeared into his office, leaving Natalie completely confused and, for the first time since meeting him, genuinely hurt. The following Monday, Natalie arrived at work expecting Owen to return to his usual teasing behavior. Instead, it was like Portland had never happened. Owen passed by her desk 3 times that morning without even glancing her way. When she tried to greet him in the hallway, he just nodded briefly and kept walking. And when she offered coffee, something that had become a tradition between them, he declined without even looking up. "No thanks, I don't need coffee today." Natalie stood there in the hallway, holding 2 cups and feeling completely foolish. "All right," she mumbled to herself. "I guess we're back to the robot CEO program." What bothered her the most wasn't just how cold he was acting. It was the fact that she was genuinely hurt. And that was ridiculous, because there was nothing between them besides a few jokes and a moment that almost happened. Almost being the key word. "You okay?" asked Jessica, her coworker. "You look like you swallowed a whole lemon." "I'm fine. Why wouldn't I be?" "I don't know. You've got that look like you lost a bet and ended up with a bill to pay." "That's such a weird comparison." "It's a talent of mine." Jessica studied her. "Are you sure you're okay? You and the boss seem to be getting along better lately." Natalie nearly choked. "Me and Owen? Getting along? Where did you get that idea?" "Oh, please, everyone in the office noticed. The teasing, the little smiles, that trip to Portland." "It was work." "Sure it was. And I'm the first lady." Natalie decided to change the subject before Jessica asked more uncomfortable questions. "Do you know if he's all right?" "Owen, he seems grumpier than usual today." "Grumpier than usual? Wow, that's nearly impossible." Jessica thought for a moment. "Actually, he turned down coffee from 3 different people this morning, and you know how much he depends on caffeine." So it wasn't just her. That made Natalie feel a little better, but also more worried. The rest of the morning dragged on like a snail climbing a wall. Natalie tried to focus on her work, but her mind kept going back to Portland. The moment they almost kissed, the way he looked at her, his laugh during the ice war, it had been real. The connection between them had been real. So why was he acting like she had turned into furniture? By lunchtime, she couldn't take it anymore. She knocked on his office door. "Come in," said the familiar voice, cold as refrigerator ice. Owen was behind his desk, typing. He didn't even look up when she entered. "Do you need something, Miss Ross?" Miss Ross. They were back to formal mode. "Actually, yes. I need to understand what's going on." Now he looked up, his expression perfectly neutral. "I'm not sure I understand. You've been acting like I have some kind of contagious disease since we got back from Portland. I'm not treating anyone differently. I've simply returned to appropriate professional behavior." Natalie felt a wave of heat rise in her chest. Appropriate professional behavior? Exactly. Owen turned his attention back to the screen. "That trip gave us a clear perspective on proper boundaries between employees." "Proper boundaries?" "Yes." Natalie stayed quiet, trying to process what she was hearing. So everything that happened in Portland was a mistake? The conversation, the laughter, the moment we almost... "Nothing happened in Portland," he cut her off, still not looking at her. "It was just an inconvenient evening caused by bad weather." The coldness in his voice hit her like a bucket of ice water. Natalie's cheeks burned. "I see," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Well, I'm glad we cleared that up. We certainly wouldn't want any more inconveniences." Owen looked up, and for a split second she thought she saw something flicker across his face, But it was so quick, she might have imagined it. Exactly. Great. Natalie turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and Owen? Of course, Mr. Carter. She looked him in the eye. Just so you know, you can pretend nothing happened. But I know you were enjoying it just as much as I was. And the fact that you're running from it only proves you're exactly what I said in that voice message. A stuck-up coward in an expensive suit. And she walked out before he could say anything. The rest of the week was a frozen hell. Owen kept acting like she was invisible, and Natalie decided two could play that game. It was on Friday that Chase Williams showed up. Chase was the new marketing intern. 25 years old, sun-bleached blonde hair, an easy smile, and a cheerful attitude that clashed completely with the icy atmosphere of the office. "You must be Natalie," he said, showing up at her desk with a bright smile. "I've heard a lot about you. I hope it was all good. Only the best." Chase leaned casually on her desk. "They say you're the funniest person in the office. Well, I do try. And very pretty too." Natalie blinked, surprised by his honesty. Then an idea began to take shape in her mind. A terrible, vengeful, probably foolish idea. But it might work. "Thank you, Chase. You're very charming yourself." She started slow, a brighter smile whenever Chase walked by, louder laughs when he made jokes, longer chats in the break room, and it worked. The next Monday when Chase brought her coffee, Natalie noticed Owen standing in the hallway, watching. His jaw was tight. "That's so sweet of you," she said loud enough for Owen to hear, touching Chase's arm. "You're a sweetheart." Chase smiled, clearly pleased. "Anything for you, Natalie." On Tuesday, she had lunch with Chase in the cafeteria, laughing loudly at his surfing stories. Owen was seated 3 tables away, and she could feel his eyes burning into her back. On Wednesday, when Chase suggested they go out for dinner, Natalie said yes, loudly, right in front of the elevator where Owen was waiting. "That sounds wonderful," she said with a glowing smile. "I love men who know how to have fun." Owen stepped into the elevator with a look that could cut glass. By Thursday, during the weekly team meeting, everything finally exploded. Chase was presenting a project when Owen interrupted sharply. "This report is incomplete," he said, with a coldness that made everyone in the room shrink in their seats. "Sir?" Chase blinked, confused. "The third quarter data is incorrect. The methodology is sloppy. And your conclusions are, frankly, ridiculous." Natalie felt her blood boil. Chase had spent days on that report, and she knew it was perfect. She had helped review it. "With all due respect, Mr. Carter," said Chase, trying to stay calm, "I reviewed that data 3 times. Then I suggest you review it a 4th. Owen stood up, dominating the room with his presence. "And next time, focus less on social distractions and more on the work." The silence in the room was deafening. Everyone knew exactly what Owen meant. Chase turned red. "Sir, this meeting is over," Owen cut in. "Everyone may leave, except you, Miss Ross." One by one, the co-workers left the room, including Chase, who gave Natalie a confused look before walking out. Once they were alone, Owen turned to her, his eyes burning with anger. "What exactly do you think you're doing? Working. Like any regular employee. Don't play games with me, Natalie." "Oh, so I'm Natalie again?" She stood up and faced him. "That's interesting. Last week I was Miss Ross. You know exactly what I mean." "Actually, I don't know. You told me nothing happened in Portland, that it was just a little inconvenience." "So why do you care who I'm having lunch with?" Owen took a step toward her. Because what, Owen? Because you're doing this just to get a reaction out of me. To get a reaction from you?" Natalie laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That's a bold assumption. Maybe I'm just moving on. After all, you made it very clear there's nothing going on between us." "Natalie, Chase is handsome, fun, and he treats me like I'm someone worth knowing. Imagine that. He's a boy. And you're a man who doesn't know what he wants." She stepped closer. "At least Chase doesn't go from warm to cold like a broken air conditioner." Owen stared at her for a long moment, breathing heavily. "You have no idea what you're talking about." "Then explain it to me." "I can't. Can't or won't? Both." Natalie shook her head, frustrated. "You're impossible, Owen Carter. Completely impossible." She turned to leave, but he grabbed her arm. "Natalie, wait." "For what? So you can tell me again that nothing happened, that I'm imagining things?" "So I can tell you you're driving me crazy." She stopped and looked at him. "What?" "You heard me." "Then why?" "Because it's complicated. Because you work for me. Because I'm no good at relationships. Because you're a coward. His eyes lit up. Careful, Natalie. Or what? You're gonna fire me? Go ahead. At least I won't have to keep playing this childish game of yours. That's when Owen completely lost control. In one swift move, he pulled her close, pressing her against him, and kissed her. It wasn't a soft or hesitant kiss. It was filled with anger, frustration, and held-back desire. Natalie was shocked for a second, then melted into him, returning the kiss with the same intensity. Weeks of tension, teasing, and silent longing exploded in that moment. When they finally pulled apart, both were out of breath. "Don't flirt with anyone," he whispered against her lips, "except me." And then, like a spell had been broken, they realized where they were, in the meeting room, with the door wide open. Anyone could have seen them. "Owen." "Natalie, come to my place tonight," he said, his voice low. "Please." Natalie looked into his eyes and saw everything he couldn't put into words. All right. That night changed everything between them. Owen showed a side of himself she had never seen, vulnerable, passionate, real. And when morning came, Natalie woke up in his arms, feeling whole for the first time in a long time. But reality hit like a cold bucket of water when she noticed the time. "Owen!" She shook him. "I need to get home and change. We're going to be late for work." He smiled sleepily. "We can be a little late. Easy for you to say when you're the boss." She laughed, already getting up. "I need to keep up appearances." An hour later, Natalie arrived at the office trying to look normal, though her heart was still racing from the night before. She had barely sat down at her desk when she noticed something was off. The looks, the way conversations stopped when she walked by, the secretive little smiles exchanged between coworkers. "Morning, Jessica." She greeted her colleague, trying to sound casual. Jessica nearly spilled her coffee. "Oh, Natalie, good morning." Her voice was unusually high. "So, how was your night?" "Normal. Why?" "No reason. Absolutely no reason." Jessica laughed nervously. "You look well rested." Before Natalie could ask what was going on, Tyler from accounting passed by her desk, humming softly. "Someone had an interesting night." Natalie frowned. "What are you all talking about?" That's when Sarah from HR appeared, holding her phone with a look that was somewhere between amused and concerned. "Natalie, you need to see this." What she saw made her want to hide under her desk. It was a photo of her and Owen in the meeting room, kissing passionately. The quality wasn't great, obviously taken in a rush, but you could clearly tell it was them. "Where did you get this?" Natalie asked, her face getting hot. "Someone posted it in the office WhatsApp group," Sarah explained. "It's already made the rounds." "Made the rounds? Everyone's seen it." Natalie looked around the office and realized, yes, everyone really was looking at her. Some with curiosity, others with disapproval, and a few with something that looked like envy. "Great," she muttered. "Just perfect." "On the bright side," said Jessica, trying to lighten the mood, "you and the boss make a very attractive couple." "Jessica, what? It's true. You've got that opposites attract thing going on. You're all spontaneous and he's all methodical." "Controlling might be a better word," Natalie muttered. "That too." The rest of the morning was an emotional roller coaster. Some coworkers came to say hello, others made sarcastic remarks about unconventional promotion methods, and some simply ignored her. The worst part was when she walked past Amanda's desk from administration and clearly heard, "I always knew she was up to something. No one's that funny without an agenda." Natalie stopped and turned around. "Sorry, Amanda, did you say something?" Amanda turned red. No, I was just spreading gossip about my personal life. How mature of you." "Natalie, I didn't mean." "Don't worry, I understand perfectly." Natalie smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Just one question. Are you upset because I'm dating Owen or because he never looked at you twice?" Amanda turned even redder and quickly went back to her work. "Wow," Jessica murmured, having seen everything. "That was harsh. It was deserved." By noon, Natalie was emotionally drained. Every conversation, every glance, every whisper made her feel like she was under a microscope. That's when Owen showed up. He walked through the office with his usual confidence, greeting people, acting like nothing had changed. When he reached her desk, the entire office went silent. "Natalie," he said, reaching out his hand, "shall we have lunch?" She looked at his hand, then at all the curious faces around them. "Owen, maybe it's better." "Better what?" He raised an eyebrow. "Aren't you hungry?" I am, but then let's go. Natalie took his hand, feeling everyone's eyes on them as they walked toward the elevator. You saw the pictures, she said as soon as the doors closed. I did. And you're not worried? Owen looked at her with an amused expression. Why should I be? Because now everyone knows, and people are talking, making comments. So what? So what? Owen, this affects your professional reputation. Natalie. He stopped the elevator between 2 floors and turned to her. I don't care what people think about my personal life. But I do. They're saying I'm taking advantage of the situation, that I have ulterior motives. Do you? Do I what? Have ulterior motives? Natalie looked at him. Of course not. Then why do you care what they say? Before she could answer, Owen kissed her again, right there in the stopped elevator. Owen, she protested when they pulled apart. Someone could walk in. Let them. He restarted the elevator. There's no turning back now, Natalie, and I don't want there to be. In the cafeteria, Owen deliberately chose a table in the middle of the room. Natalie tried to sit with her back to the crowd, but he gently turned her chair. Don't hide, he said softly. You didn't do anything wrong. I feel like I did. Why? Because, she hesitated. Because now we're the office's main entertainment. And because I don't know if you're doing this because you really want to, or because you feel obligated after what happened. Owen stopped eating and looked at her seriously. You think I feel obligated? I don't know what you feel. Yesterday you ignored me, today you're making public statements. It's confusing. You're right, he sighed. I was confused, maybe scared. Scared of what? Of you, of what I feel for you, of what it means. Natalie felt her heart race. And now? Now I've decided to stop fighting it. In the following weeks, they settled into a routine. Secret meetings on the company rooftop during breaks, where they could talk without curious stares. Notes discreetly left on each other's desks. Inside jokes only they understood. Owen started leaving flowers on her desk every Friday, always with funny cards that made her laugh loud enough for everyone to hear. To the only person who can burn popcorn and still be perfect. Oh. Thanks for teaching me that Doritos can be a balanced meal. Your favorite CEO. Gradually, the nasty comments faded. Some coworkers even began rooting for the couple, especially after seeing how much more Owen smiled when he was with her. But it wasn't all sunshine. Natalie started noticing little things, like how Owen sometimes grew distant during personal conversations, how he changed the subject when she asked about his past, how there was a hidden sadness in his eyes at unexpected moments. Have you ever been married? She asked one afternoon while they shared sandwiches on the rooftop. Owen nearly choked. Why that question? Female curiosity. You're 32, successful, good-looking, you must have broken a few hearts along the way. Some, he answered vaguely. Someone special? Owen stayed silent for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. No, no one, he finally said. That answer bothered Natalie more than it should have. She tried to ignore the feeling, but the doubt began to grow like a seed in fertile ground. The following week, while Owen was in a meeting, she needed to pick up some documents from his office. That's when it happened. Looking for the papers in the desk drawer, her fingers found something unexpected. A letter. Or rather, part of a letter, as if the rest had been torn off. Without thinking, she read the visible words. I know you will never forgive me for what I did, but you need to know that I still love you. I know you still love me too. What we had was real, even though it ended so terribly, Sarah. Natalie felt her stomach drop. That letter seemed recent. The handwriting was feminine, delicate, and the tone, Natalie? She jumped, quickly hiding the letter. Owen was standing in the doorway, watching her with an expression she couldn't read. Did you find the documents you needed? He asked. Yes, she lied. I found them. But in truth, she had found much more than she was looking for. Natalie spent the rest of the day pretending everything was normal, but the letter burned in her mind like a mark. Every smile from Owen, every gentle gesture, every sweet word felt like a lie now. Because when she had asked if there was someone special, he had said no. And now that letter confirmed something else. When he invited her to dinner, she accepted, but only because she needed answers. At the Italian restaurant they had chosen, Owen was relaxed, telling a funny story about a meeting gone wrong, but Natalie could barely focus. You're acting strange today, he observed, cutting into his risotto. Did something happen? Actually, yes. Natalie set down her fork and looked at him. I need to ask you something. Go ahead. About Sarah. Owen stopped chewing. The change in his expression was instant, as if a wall had gone up between them. What about Sarah? Who is she really? And don't give me that someone from the past story. I saw the letter, Owen. What letter? The letter in your drawer. Her letter. Owen closed his eyes for a moment, as if gathering strength. You went through my things. I was looking for the documents you asked me to get. The letter was right there in plain sight. Natalie leaned forward. So, are you going to tell me the truth, or do I have to guess? Owen let out a heavy sigh. Sarah was my fiancée. For 3 years. Fiancée. Natalie felt her stomach drop. And what happened? We broke up 2 weeks before the wedding. 2 weeks? That must have been a complete nightmare. The invitations had already been sent, the cake ordered, the venue booked. We had to cancel everything. Natalie could see the pain in his eyes, even after all these years. Why did you break up? Owen stayed silent for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. She cheated on me, he finally said, his voice low. With my best friend, in my apartment, in our bed. Owen? Natalie reached out to touch his hand, but he pulled away. I came home early from work to surprise her. The surprise was mine. I'm sorry, that must have been terrible. It was. He gave a short laugh, but there was no humor in it. 3 years of a relationship, 1 year engaged, and she threw it all away for one night with my best friend. And the letter, the one I found? She writes to me from time to time, asking for forgiveness, saying it was a mistake, that she wants a second chance. Natalie felt something cold settle in her chest. And do you consider giving her that second chance? Owen looked at her as if she had said something absurd. Of course not. I've never trusted anyone again since then. But you trust me. Owen hesitated. It's complicated. Complicated how? Natalie, what happened between us was unexpected, intense, but I can't what? I can't allow myself to feel anything real again. I can't trust anyone anymore. The words came out like a confession forced from him, not after what happened. Natalie felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. So what am I to you, a convenient distraction? That's not it. Then what is it? Because it feels exactly like that. Owen ran his hand through his hair, clearly struggling with himself. You are important to me, more important than you should be. But not important enough for you to truly trust. Natalie, you don't understand? I understand perfectly. She stood up from the table. You're afraid. And I understand fear, Owen, but I can't accept being treated like I'm disposable. Where are you going? Home. I need to think. Natalie, wait. But she was already walking out of the restaurant. The fight that followed in the days after was epic. Owen tried to talk to her at the office, but Natalie kept him at arm's length with sharp comments and fake smiles. You're being childish, he said during a meeting when she deliberately ignored him. And you're being way too realistic, she shot back. Maybe that's why we were such a good match. Their coworkers watched the exchanges like a tennis match, with tension growing each day. It was on Friday that Owen finally snapped. I need to talk to you. Now. He showed up at her desk like a storm. I'm busy. I wasn't asking. In his office with the door shut, they finally faced each other. This has to stop, Owen said. What, my work? Because I've done everything perfectly. This coldness, these sarcastic remarks. We're in the middle of a workplace, Natalie. I thought you liked professionalism. Not when it's being used as a weapon. I learned from the best. Owen stared at her for a long moment. Is this what you want? For me to say I love you? The question caught her off guard. I want you to stop acting like having feelings is some kind of terminal illness. What if it is? His voice was filled with pain. What if every time I start to feel something, I remember her in my bed with him? What if I just can't trust anyone anymore? Natalie felt her heart breaking, for him and for herself. Then you need time to work that out, and I need space to decide if I can wait for you to grow up. Natalie, 1 month, she said. Let's go 1 month without talking, without seeing each other outside of what's necessary for work. After that, either you decide you really want to try, or we end this for good. Owen was silent. 1 month, he finally agreed. The next month was one of the hardest of Natalie's life. Owen stuck to the agreement completely. He was professional at work, But there were no more notes, no more flowers, no more quiet meetings. She spent her nights watching 90s romantic comedies with her friends Kelly and Emma, drowning her feelings in pizza and ice cream. "Are you sure you're doing the right thing?" Kelly asked one night as they watched You've Got Mail for the third time. "I'm not sure about anything," Natalie admitted, "but I can't be with someone who sees me as a risk to manage." "Men are complicated," Emma sighed, "especially the ones who've been hurt before." "Everyone's been hurt in some way," Natalie said. "That's no excuse not to try again." At the office, it felt like living through a Cold War. Owen walked past her desk without looking at her. She only spoke to him about work matters, and everyone could feel the tension in the air. Sometimes she caught him looking at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Other times, when she thought no one was watching, she'd let herself look at him and miss the man she met in Portland. But she was determined not to be the first to break. It was during the third week that she started feeling strange. First came the morning sickness, then dizziness when she stood up too fast, and constant sleepiness, even after 10 hours of rest. "Are you okay?" Jessica asked. "You look kind of pale." "Probably just stress," Natalie answered, though a terrible suspicion had begun to grow in her mind. In the fourth week, when she nearly fainted in the office bathroom, she knew she couldn't ignore the signs any longer. On the way home, she stopped by the pharmacy and bought 3 different pregnancy tests. Just to be sure. At her apartment, hands trembling, she took the first test. 2 lines. Second test, 2 lines. Third test, 2 lines. Natalie sat on the bathroom floor, staring at the 3 positive tests, and one word echoed in her mind. Pregnant. She was pregnant with Owen Carter's child. The man who was afraid of real feelings. The man who saw her as a risk. The man who had spent the last month avoiding her. And now they'd be connected forever, whether they liked it or not. Natalie spent the whole night awake, staring at the ceiling, switching between wanting to laugh and wanting to cry. Pregnant. She was pregnant with the most emotionally unavailable CEO in Manhattan. Perfect. She muttered into her pillow. Just perfect. As if my life wasn't complicated enough. She imagined the conversation. "Hi, Owen? Remember me? That employee you've been avoiding for a month? Well, I've got some interesting news." The next morning, she arrived at the office with a kind of determination she didn't know she had. She had spent hours rehearsing what she would say, but every time she saw Owen from afar, the words slipped right out of her mind. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Jessica said, and then argued with it. "Thanks for the free psychological evaluation. Always available when needed." Jessica studied her. "Seriously, what's going on? You've been acting strange for days." "I'm fine. Fine for you would mean cracking jokes about the bad coffee or making up funny nicknames for clients. You've been way too quiet." Natalie tried to smile. "Maybe I'm evolving, becoming a more thoughtful person." Heaven forbid. You being thoughtful is a scary concept. By 5 o'clock, Natalie knew she couldn't delay it any longer. She waited until Owen left for the parking lot, took a deep breath, and followed him. He was standing by his car, talking on the phone when she walked up. As soon as he saw her, he quickly ended the call. "Natalie." His voice was cautious. "Is something wrong? You could say that, yes?" Owen looked at her closely, noticing for the first time how tired she seemed. "Are you okay? You look pregnant?" The words came out before she could stop them. The silence that followed was deafening. Owen stood so still she wondered if he had stopped breathing. "What did you say?" "You heard me just fine." Natalie crossed her arms, trying to look braver than she felt. "Congratulations, Owen. You're going to be a father." Owen didn't move, as if he were processing something in a foreign language. "Are you sure?" 3 different tests. All positive. Unless I bought defective ones on sale, yes, I'm sure. "When did you?" "I found out last night." Natalie let out a humorless laugh. Funny how life has its own weird sense of humor, doesn't it? We go a whole month without speaking, and now we're connected forever. Owen finally moved, stepping closer to her. "Natalie. Look, I'm not telling you this because I want anything from you. You made it clear you don't want anything serious, but I thought you had the right to know. Stop. I can handle this on my own. I have a good job, a decent apartment." "Natalie, stop talking." She closed her mouth, surprised by the firmness in his voice. Owen stepped closer, standing right in front of her. Then, to her complete surprise, he reached out and gently touched her stomach. "There's a baby in there," he said, in awe. "Yeah, that's more or less how it works." "Our baby." "Technically, yes." Owen looked up at her and Natalie saw something she didn't expect, genuine joy. "Then let's do this together," she blinked. "Excuse me? You and me. Let's do this together." "Owen, you don't understand. 5 minutes ago you couldn't even look at me. Now you're saying we'll do this together?" "I know it sounds confusing. It sounds crazy. Maybe it is." He smiled, a real smile she hadn't seen in weeks. "But you know what I realized over this past month?" "What?" "That I miss you. Every day, every hour." His voice softened. "I miss your jokes, your smile, the way you make me laugh even when I'm mad." Natalie felt her heart racing. "Owen, I love you, Natalie." The words came out like a confession. "Am I scared? Of course. Am I terrified? Absolutely. But I love you more than I'm afraid." "You're only saying this because of the baby." "No, I'm saying it because it's true." He took her hands in his. "The baby just gave me the courage to admit what I already knew." Natalie felt tears stinging her eyes. "How do I know you won't run again when things get scary?" "Because now I have 2 reasons to stay." He touched her stomach again. "You and our child. Daughter," she corrected automatically. "How do you know?" "Woman's intuition. She's going to be a stubborn little girl just like her mom." Owen laughed. "God help us." In the weeks that followed, it was like Owen had turned into a completely different person. He showed up at her desk with special teas for morning sickness. He obsessively researched pregnancy and shared random facts. "Did you know the baby already has fingerprints?" he said during lunch. "Owen, it's only been 8 weeks. And the heart is already beating." "You read the entire book last night, didn't you?" "Maybe." They rescheduled the doctor's appointment together, and Natalie couldn't deny she was touched by his dedication. Owen took notes during the doctor's explanations, asked technical questions, and seemed genuinely fascinated by the entire process. "First ultrasound today," said Dr. Williams, a kind woman in her 50s. "Let's take a look at our little one." Natalie lay down on the exam table, nervous. Owen held her hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. "It's okay," he whispered. "We're about to see our baby." The doctor applied the cold gel to Natalie's belly and moved the probe. The screen filled with blurry black and white shapes. "Let me find it here," the doctor murmured, moving the equipment. "Ah, here it is." A tiny shape appeared on the screen, pulsing rhythmically. "The heart," the doctor explained, "beating perfectly." Owen squeezed Natalie's hand tighter, eyes locked on the screen. "It's amazing," he whispered. "And very active," the doctor added, continuing the exam. "Let me get a better look." Suddenly she stopped, frowning. "What is it?" Natalie asked, instantly alarmed. "Is something wrong?" No, nothing wrong." The doctor smiled. "Actually, we have a surprise here." "What kind of surprise?" Owen leaned forward. "Look right here," the doctor pointed at the screen. "One baby, and here, a second baby." The room went completely silent. "A second?" Natalie began. "Twins," the doctor confirmed with a big smile. "Congratulations, you're having twins." Natalie felt the world spin around her. "Twins?" she repeated as if the word were in another language. "As in, 2 babies? At the same time?" "Exactly." "Oh my goodness." Natalie covered her face with her free hand. 2 babies, 2 kids, 2 college tuitions, 2 weddings someday. Owen, on the other hand, started laughing. Not a little chuckle, a real, joyful laugh that filled the room. "Owen!" Natalie looked at him like he'd lost his mind. "Why are you laughing? This is a disaster." "It's not a disaster," he said, still laughing and kissing her hand. "It's perfect. Perfect. 2 babies are perfect. Have you lost your mind? Maybe." He smiled at her with so much love that Natalie felt her heart melt. "But think about it. Now we have twice the reason to make this work. Or twice the chances for everything to go wrong. Where's your faith, future mom?" Natalie looked at the screen where 2 tiny hearts were beating side by side and felt a mix of total terror and overwhelming love. "2 babies," she murmured again. "Natalie Ross, what have you gotten yourself into?" Owen kissed her forehead. "The greatest adventure of our lives." 3 weeks after the twin discovery, Natalie stood in the middle of Owen's apartment holding a box with a look of total panic. "I can't do this," she announced. "I just can't." Owen, who was putting together a crib with instructions in 3 different languages, looked up. "Do what? Live with me or build baby furniture?" "Both. Especially the living together part." He squeezed the toothpaste from the middle. Who does that? Normal people? Normal people squeeze from the bottom up. It's a basic rule of civilization. Owen smiled, already used to Natalie's panic attacks about domestic details. We can buy 2 tubes of toothpaste, and you leave dirty dishes in the sink overnight. 1 coffee cup. It's about the principle. Natalie sat down on the box she was holding. What if we find out we're totally incompatible for living together? What if you find out I sing in the shower? Loudly? You sing in the shower? Like a bird with vocal problems. I can't wait to hear it. Natalie stared at him, searching for any hint of sarcasm, but he looked genuinely amused. You have serious self-preservation issues. Maybe. Owen walked over and kissed her forehead. But I'm willing to take the risk. Moving into Owen's apartment was an interesting process. Natalie brought 3 boxes of books, an impressive collection of mugs with funny sayings, and a different pair of pajamas for every day of the week. How many pajamas does one person need? Owen asked, watching her put away the 15th set. Is that a rhetorical question? Because the answer is, you can never have too many pajamas. And this one? He held up a pink pajama set with flamingos. That's for special occasions. What kind of special occasions involve flamingos? You'll find out. Adjusting to life together was easier than Natalie expected. Owen turned out to be surprisingly flexible for someone used to controlling every part of his professional life. He let her reorganize the entire kitchen, didn't complain when she turned his office into a half-office, half-future playroom, and even learned how to make pancakes when she started having strange cravings. Pancakes with vanilla ice cream at 7 in the morning, he said one Tuesday, placing the plate in front of her. I'm pretty sure this breaks several nutritional laws. The babies want pancakes, Natalie replied, digging into the food with enthusiasm. Who am I to say no? How do you know it's the babies and not you? Because I usually hate pancakes in the morning. Now I love them, so it's the babies. Flawless logic. They spent weekends shopping for furniture for the baby's room, an activity that revealed some very real personality differences. We're going to need 2 of everything, Owen said, jotting down notes on his tablet. 2 cribs, 2 changing tables, 2 dressers. Or we could just improvise, see what works. Improvise with newborns? Why not? Our parents improvised with us and we survived. Our parents didn't have twins. Minor detail. But Owen was determined to have everything perfectly organized. He made spreadsheets with feeding schedules, researched the best diaper brands, and even bought a book on how to raise twins with maximum efficiency. You do realize babies aren't business projects, right? Natalie asked one evening, finding him making charts about infant sleep patterns. I'm preparing. You're going overboard. Maybe a little. It was during one of these obsessive prep sessions that Owen decided it was time for Natalie to meet his mother. My mom wants to meet you, he said casually over breakfast. Natalie nearly choked on her orange juice. Your mom? Now? She's curious about the woman who made me smile again. What if she doesn't like me? Impossible. How can you be so sure? Because I love you, and my mother trusts my judgment. Your judgment in relationships isn't exactly flawless, considering their history. Owen winced. Touché. Lunch with Eleanor Carter turned out to be surprisingly pleasant. She was an elegant woman in her 60s, with Owen's same sharp eyes and a quick wit. So you're the famous Natalie, she said, studying her with interest. Owen talks so much about you, I started to wonder if you were imaginary. Sometimes I wonder that too, Natalie replied, earning a warm laugh. I like her, Eleanor declared to Owen, as if Natalie wasn't sitting right there. She has personality, and she's not intimidated by you. Thank you? It was a compliment, dear. My son can be intense. I'm starting to see that. Over lunch, Eleanor shared some embarrassing childhood stories about Owen, much to his horror and Natalie's delight. He used to organize his toys by color and size, Eleanor revealed. At 4 years old. That explains a lot, Natalie murmured. And when he found out he was going to have twin siblings, Eleanor continued, ignoring her son's warning glance, he made a schedule for how to help care for them. Wait, Natalie perked up. Owen was going to have twin siblings? We were, Eleanor corrected gently, her smile fading slightly. But I lost the babies in the 6th month. The silence that followed was heavy. Natalie looked at Owen, suddenly understanding why he'd been so emotional about their twin news. "I'm so sorry," she said softly. "It was a long time ago," Eleanor replied. "But maybe it explains why Owen's so excited about these babies. It feels like a second chance." After lunch, in the car, Natalie held Owen's hand. "Why didn't you tell me about your siblings?" "Because it hurts to think about it." He squeezed her hand. "But when I found out we were having twins, it felt like, I don't know, like it was meant to be." "Meant to be? You believe in destiny now?" "I'm starting to believe in a lot of things I never used to." Everything felt perfect. Natalie was adjusting well to the pregnancy, Owen was being the ideal partner, and they were building something real together. That's when the bomb dropped. Natalie was at the apartment, sorting through baby clothes Eleanor had bought, when Owen's laptop beeped with a new email. Without thinking much, she checked to see if it was something urgent. What she saw made her stop breathing. The email was from Jonathan Hayes at TechCorp Industries, and the subject line read, "Final merger proposal, personnel matters." Against her better judgment, she opened it. "Owen, as discussed, the merger between Apex and TechCorp is practically finalized. Only a few image issues remain. Our PR team suggests it would be wise to remove Miss Ross from the company before the official announcement. The personal relationship between you two, while understandable, may be seen as a conflict of interest by the shareholders. We've prepared a generous compensation package that would ensure a discreet and amicable departure. Awaiting your response. Jonathan." Natalie read the email 3 times, feeling her world fall apart. Owen knew. He knew they wanted her out of the company, and he hadn't said a word. When Owen came home that evening, he found Natalie sitting in the living room, the laptop open on the table in front of her. "Natalie?" He could tell right away something was wrong. "What happened? Were you going to tell me?" she asked, her voice dangerously calm. Owen followed her gaze to the laptop screen and went pale. "Natalie, I can explain." "Can I?" She stood up, hands trembling. "Because I'd love to hear how you explain planning to remove me from the company behind my back." "That's not how it is." "No? Then how is it, Owen? How do you explain negotiating my exit like I'm some problem that needs solving?" Owen closed his eyes, defeated. "It's complicated." "No, Owen." Natalie shook her head, eyes burning with tears. "What's complicated is finding out the man you love is willing to sacrifice you for a business deal." "Natalie, let me explain," Owen began, but she was already walking toward the bedroom. "Explain what, exactly?" Natalie started throwing her clothes into a suitcase with sharp, angry movements. "How you decided I was disposable, or how you planned to tell me I was being let go?" "That's not what's happening." "No?" She turned to face him, holding a pair of socks like they were weapons. "Then please, explain it to me. Because from what I read, you're negotiating a quiet and friendly departure for me." Owen ran a hand through his hair, clearly struggling to find the right words. "The merger is important for the company, for all the employees." "Oh, I see. So you're sacrificing me for the greater good." "It's not a sacrifice, it's complicated." "Stop using that word." Natalie snapped the suitcase shut. "Everything is complicated with you, Owen. Relationships are complicated. Feelings are complicated. Now work is complicated. You know what's not complicated? Honesty. I was trying to protect you." Natalie laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Protect me? From what? From having choices? From knowing the truth about my own life? From stress? You're pregnant with twins, Natalie. You shouldn't have to worry about company politics." "Oh, so now I'm too fragile to handle reality?" She grabbed the suitcase and walked to the door. "Perfect. Just perfect." "Where are you going?" "To my apartment. Remember that place? That little one I lived in before I made the mistake of trusting you?" "Natalie, don't be dramatic." She stopped at the door and slowly turned around. "Dramatic? You just called me dramatic?" Owen instantly realized he'd said the wrong thing. "I didn't mean." "No, you said exactly what you meant." Natalie shook her head. "You know, Owen, I thought you'd changed, that you'd learned to trust, to open up. But you're still the same man I met on that first day. Controlling, condescending, and emotionally unavailable." "That's not true." "Isn't it? Then why am I finding out about my own future through an email that wasn't even meant for me?" Owen stayed silent, and Natalie nodded as if he had confirmed her worst fears. "That's what I thought." Back in her small apartment, Natalie sat on the living room floor and finally allowed the tears to come. Not just from anger, but from deep disappointment. She had believed Owen had changed, that they were building something real together, but some people never really change. Her phone rang over and over. Owen calling. She ignored it. It rang again. She ignored it again. On the 10th call, she simply turned the phone off. "It's okay," she said to her belly, where the twins were growing quietly. "We'll do this on our own. It's not the first time a single mom raised kids without help." But even as she said it, her heart felt like it was breaking. In the days that followed, Natalie made a decision. If Owen wanted her out of the company, fine, she'd leave, but on her own terms. She reactivated her old humor blog, Confessions of an Almost Adult, which she had abandoned years ago. She started writing about pregnancy, relationships, and life in general, using the self-deprecating humor that had always been her trademark. "I just found out I'm expecting twins. My first thought was, great, now I have to buy 2 of everything, including 2 college funds. My second thought was realizing I'll never go to the bathroom alone again for the next 18 years. To her surprise, the blog took off. In 1 week, it had 1,000 followers. In 2 weeks, 5,000. People connected with her honest humor about the struggles of adult life. Today, I found out that the father of my babies thinks I need to be protected from making decisions about my own career. Apparently, being pregnant has turned me into a delicate flower that might wilt at the first sign of stress. Someone forgot to tell me that along with hormones, I also gained emotional fragility and an inability to make rational choices. How convenient." The comments were supportive and funny, and for the first time in weeks, Natalie finally felt like herself again. Meanwhile, at the office, Owen was sinking in regret. He tried to focus on work, but his thoughts kept drifting back to Natalie, to the look of disappointment in her eyes, to the way she had packed her life into a suitcase and walked out of his house and out of his life. "You look terrible," Jessica said, walking into his office uninvited. "Thanks for the constructive feedback. You're welcome." She sat down in the chair across from his desk. "Where's Natalie? At home? At her apartment or yours?" Owen shot her an annoyed look. "Her apartment." "Oh, so you two had a fight. It's none of your business." "Of course it is. Natalie's my friend, and you're an idiot if you let her go." "Jessica." "No, listen to me." She leaned forward. "I've worked here for 5 years. I've never seen you truly smile until you met Natalie, and now you're back to your usual grumpy, unbearable self." "My usual self?" "Exactly. And frankly, I prefer the happy version of you, so whatever you did, undo it." Owen sighed. "It's not that simple." "Why do men always think things are more complicated than they really are?" Jessica stood up. "Do you love her?" "Yes." "Does she love you?" I think she does." "Then stop being proud and go after her." After Jessica left, Owen was alone with his thoughts, and for the first time, he admitted the truth to himself. He had chosen business over Natalie. Again. Just like he'd always done since Sarah. Always choosing the safe, controllable option instead of taking a real risk. But Natalie wasn't Sarah. And now he was losing not only the love of his life, but also the best version of himself. That's when he knew what he had to do. The next morning, Natalie was at home, working on a new blog post, when someone knocked on the door. She opened it to find a delivery person holding a huge bouquet of sunflowers, her favorite flowers. Tucked inside the bouquet was an envelope. With trembling hands, she opened it and read, "Natalie, I know I don't deserve it, but I need to see you. One last conversation. If after that you want me out of your life, except for the babies, I'll understand. Meet me today at 6 o'clock in Central Park, near the lake. By the bench where we sat on our second, almost first date. I have something important to tell you, and a question to ask. Owen." "A question?" Natalie looked at the flowers, then at the note, then at her belly where the babies were growing. Part of her wanted to throw the flowers away and ignore the invitation. But another part, the part that still loved him despite everything, was curious. What kind of question could Owen Carter possibly have that was so important? At 5:45, she found herself walking toward Central Park, wearing a simple light green dress and comfortable sneakers, wondering if she was making the biggest mistake of her life, or maybe, just maybe, giving them one last chance. Natalie arrived at Central Park 5 minutes late, mostly because she had to stop 3 times to tie her shoes. Being pregnant with twins was making simple tasks surprisingly complicated. As she neared the lake, she saw Owen sitting on the bench he had mentioned. But it wasn't the corporate Owen she knew. He wasn't wearing a tie. He was in jeans and sneakers. A sight so unusual, she had to blink twice to be sure it was really him. "You came," he said, standing up as she approached. "Curiosity," she replied, trying to keep the tone light. "And you're dressed like a normal person. Thought I'd try something different." "Where's the suit? Isn't the world going to end without you in a suit?" Owen gave a nervous smile. "Turns out the world is more resilient than I thought." Natalie sat on the bench, leaving a cautious space between them. "So, what's this question that couldn't be asked over the phone?" Owen sat beside her, but not too close. His hands were slightly shaking, and she realized he was more nervous than she'd ever seen him. "First, I need to say a few things." "I'm listening." Owen took a deep breath, like he was preparing for a speech he had practiced 1,000 times. "You were right about everything. About me being controlling, condescending, and emotionally unavailable. About me choosing work over you. About not trusting you enough to make your own decisions." Natalie blinked, surprised by the raw honesty. "Okay, I didn't expect you to admit that so easily." "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I realized I was doing with you the same thing I've done in every relationship in my life. Keeping distance, managing variables, protecting myself from getting hurt again. And I realized I was losing the best thing that ever happened to me because of fear." Tears started to form in his eyes, and Natalie felt her heart beat faster. "Owen, please let me finish." He turned to face her fully. "Before you, I was just existing. I went to work, came home, slept, repeated. There was no joy, no laughter, no surprise, no real life. And now? Now I want it all. I want to wake up every day curious about what funny thing you're going to say. I want to see you burn popcorn and make a mess in the kitchen. I want to argue over toothpaste and hear you sing in the shower like a bird with vocal problems." Despite herself, Natalie smiled. "Go on. I want to be there when our children are born. I want to see their first steps, hear their first words, and watch them probably inherit your gift for creating impossible situations." "They're going to be perfectly normal," Natalie objected. "With you as their mother? Impossible." Owen smiled, tears in his eyes now. "And I can't wait to see what kind of chaos they'll bring to our lives." "Owen, why are you telling me all this?" "Because you taught me how to live, Natalie. Truly live. And now I want to live everything with you." That's when he slipped off the bench and knelt down on the grass. "Oh my God," Natalie whispered. "What are you doing?" "Something I should have done a long time ago." Owen pulled a small blue velvet box from his pocket and opened it. Inside were 3 rings, 2 tiny ones clearly made for babies, and a larger one with a simple but elegant diamond. "Natalie Ross," he said, voice thick with emotion, "will you marry me? And will you let me be the fully dedicated, probably overprotective father of our children?" Natalie looked at the rings, then at Owen on one knee in the grass, then at a few people who had stopped to watch. "You brought rings for the babies?" she asked, laughing and crying at the same time. "I thought they should be part of the proposal too." "They're tiny. They're symbolic. We'll save them until they grow." "This is the most ridiculous and sweetest thing anyone has ever done for me." "So is that a yes?" Natalie looked at him, this impossible, frustrating, wonderful man, and felt her heart overflow. "Yes," she said, laughing and crying all at once. "Yes, it's a yes." Owen slipped the ring onto her finger with trembling hands, then stood up and kissed her as people around them clapped. "Are we really doing this?" she asked when they pulled apart. "Apparently." Owen smiled, wiping tears from her cheeks. "Any regrets? Ask me in 50 years. I'll ask every year, just to be sure." "Good. That way I can change my mind if you go back to wearing a tie every day." "Never again. Liar. Maybe just on Mondays." The next few months passed like a joyful whirlwind. They planned a simple wedding in Eleanor's backyard with just family and close friends. Owen insisted on hiring a wedding planner, but Natalie was determined to keep it personal and relaxed. "No ice swans or chocolate fountains," she said firmly during a meeting with the planner. "But that would be so elegant," the woman protested. "Elegant isn't our style. Our style is chaotic, but full of love." Owen laughed. "She's right. We want something that feels like us." "And what are you two?" "Two people who fell in love because one of them burned popcorn and the other found it charming." A week before the wedding, 7 months pregnant, Natalie was at the bakery doing the final cake tasting. Owen was beside her, taking notes on flavors like it was a crucial business decision. "The chocolate and strawberry one is perfect," Natalie said, attacking the third sample. "You said that about the vanilla, too." "I can change my mind. Bride's prerogative. And the lemon. Too sour for ouch." "What is it?" "Nothing, just ouch." Natalie bent over, holding her belly. "Natalie?" "Owen," she said, looking at him with a mix of panic and excitement. "I think my wedding dress is going to have to be a hospital gown." "Why?" "Because our babies decided they want to meet the wedding cake in person." Owen's eyes widened. Now. And there in the fanciest bakery in Manhattan, surrounded by cake samples and sugar flowers, Natalie went into labor a week before the wedding. "Well," she said, trying to breathe through another contraction, "at least our love story is going to have an interesting ending." Owen grabbed her hand, laughing nervously. "Interesting doesn't even begin to cover it. Our kids are already making chaos before they're even born. They are definitely our kids." What followed was probably the most chaotic ambulance ride in Manhattan history. Natalie was having contractions every 3 minutes, Owen was on the phone trying to juggle 3 things at once, and the paramedic looked like he was questioning his career choices. "Take deep breaths," the paramedic instructed for the 5th time. "I am breathing," Natalie shouted during a contraction. "He's the one who needs to breathe." Owen looked visibly pale, gripping her hand tightly while speaking on the phone. "Mom." "Yes, we're on the way to the hospital." "No, it's not a false alarm." "Yes, 1 week before the wedding." "No, we didn't plan it this way." "Owen," Natalie said through panting breaths, "hang up that phone or I swear I'll throw it out the window." "Mom, I have to go. Natalie's having violent thoughts." "Violent thoughts?" Natalie glared at him. "Owen Carter, when this is over, you'll find out what real violent thoughts look like." At the hospital, things didn't calm down much. The medical team was ready for premature twins, but clearly not ready for the couple that came with them. "Sir, you need to calm down," the nurse told Owen, who was pacing back and forth across the room. "I am calm," he replied. "Clearly not calm. I just want to make sure everything's being done right." "Owen," Natalie called from the bed, "you're making me more nervous than the contractions." "Sorry, it's just, this is real. It's actually happening." A bit late for that realization, don't you think? Dr. Patterson, the obstetrician, entered the room with the calmness of someone who had seen every kind of family drama before. "How are we doing, Natalie?" "Well, doctor, considering I'm about to give birth to twins a week before my wedding, in a hospital, instead of on a honeymoon, I'd say I'm fantastic." "She's handling this very well," the doctor noted to Owen. "And you, sir?" Owen stopped mid-sentence, looked at Natalie, then at the monitors, and suddenly turned very pale. "I think I'm going to," and fainted, literally. "Owen," Natalie yelled, trying to sit up in bed. "Stay down," the nurse said, rushing to help Owen. "This happens more often than you'd think." "He fainted." "During labor. Folks, it happens. Too much stress, too many emotions. He's a CEO. He deals with pressure all the time. Apparently this is a different kind of pressure," Dr. Patterson added with a smile. When Owen woke up 5 minutes later, he found Natalie looking at him with a mix of concern and amusement. "Welcome back, future dad," she said. "How about staying conscious for the rest of the show?" "I fainted." "Yep, right in front of the whole medical team. Very manly of you." "I'm sorry, don't be, it was hilarious. Now come over here and hold my hand like a responsible adult." The next 4 hours were a roller coaster of emotions. Pain, nervous jokes, and moments of pure terror. Owen redeemed himself by holding Natalie's hand, offering ice chips when needed, and saying encouraging things even when she threatened him with physical harm. "When this is over," she said during a particularly strong contraction, "you're getting a vasectomy, whatever you say, and you'll cook for a whole month. Deal. And you'll handle every nighttime diaper for the first 6 months. That doesn't sound fair. You want to renegotiate right now?" "No, ma'am." Finally, at 11:47 p.m., Emma Carter was born, followed 3 minutes later by her brother, James Carter. 2 perfect little babies, small but healthy, crying as if protesting their sudden change of address. Exhausted but glowing, Natalie held both babies while Owen stood beside the bed with a look that shifted between total awe and overwhelming love. They're so small, he whispered, gently touching James's tiny hand. They're premature, Owen. That was expected and perfect. And yours? Natalie smiled at him. Ours. Owen leaned down and kissed her forehead. You were incredible. I know, and you fainted. I'll try to do better next time. Next time? Natalie looked at him. Owen Carter, if you think there's going to be a next time. Just kidding. I'm kidding. The first few days at home were absolute, wonderful chaos. Emma had her mother's strong lungs and liked to prove it at 3 a.m. James was quieter, but had a special talent for pooping right as his diaper was being changed. How can two such small people make so much work? Owen asked one morning, holding Emma while Natalie nursed James. It's one of nature's mysteries, like how they know exactly when we've just fallen asleep so they can start crying, and how they always manage to make sure they never sleep at the same time. It's military strategy. They're testing us. Eleanor visited every day, bringing food and offering to hold the babies while Natalie took a shower or Owen tried to answer urgent emails. They're beautiful, she said, rocking Emma. And Emma definitely has her mother's personality. How can you tell? She complains a lot and wants constant attention. Hey, Natalie protested. It was a compliment, dear. After 2 weeks at home, once they finally found something that resembled a routine, Natalie noticed something important. Owen, she said one night while they took turns rocking James back to sleep. We still haven't gotten married. Owen stopped rocking the baby. That's true. With all the craziness, I completely forgot. Well, I didn't, and I still want to marry you. Even after seeing me pass out during labor, especially after that. It proved you're human. Owen smiled. So should we reschedule everything? Actually, Natalie said with that mischievous smile he knew so well, I have a better idea. What kind of idea? The kind you'll think is completely crazy. Now I'm worried. You should be. Natalie laid James in the crib and turned to Owen with a sparkle in her eyes. How about I propose to you this time? Owen's eyes widened. You want to propose to me? Why not? You had your chance. Now it's my turn to do it my way. And what's your way? Natalie smiled mysteriously. You'll find out, but I promise it's going to be unforgettable. Owen looked at her, this amazing woman who had turned his life upside down in the best possible way, and smiled. I can't wait to see what you're planning. You should be excited, because it's going to be epic. 2 weeks later, Owen was starting to suspect that Natalie was up to something. She had that secret smile that usually came before moments of creative chaos, and she was spending suspicious amounts of time on the phone with Eleanor and Jessica. What are you planning? He asked one morning while changing James's diaper. Nothing much, Natalie replied innocently, nursing Emma. Just organizing a little surprise. Your surprises make me nervous. They should, she smiled, but you're going to like this one, I think. You think? Well, you'll either love it or have a panic attack. Knowing you, probably both. The following Friday, Owen came home from work and found the house strangely quiet. Normally, he'd walk into at least one baby crying and Natalie singing a silly lullaby off key. Natalie? He called, heading up the stairs. Up here, came her voice from the bedroom. He found the twins peacefully sleeping in their cribs and Natalie getting ready in front of the mirror, wearing a simple but elegant white dress. You look beautiful, he said, kissing her neck. Special occasion? Very special. She turned to him with a radiant smile. Put on your best outfit. We have somewhere to be. What kind of event? The kind that will change our lives forever. Again. 20 minutes later, they were in the car with the babies, driving toward the new house Owen had bought for them. A house with a spacious yard and enough rooms for a growing family. Why are we going to the new house? Owen asked, more confused by the minute. Because that's where we're having our engagement party. Our engagement party? Well, technically, it's going to be our proposal party, because I haven't officially proposed to you yet. Owen stopped the car in the driveway and looked at her. Natalie, what did you do? Something epic. Just like I promised. When they got out of the car, Owen saw that the yard had been transformed. There were small lights strung through the trees, tables decorated with simple flowers, and about 20 people, close family and friends, waiting for them. Natalie, he started, but she was already pulling Emma out of her car seat. No speeches yet, she said. First, let's greet our guests. Eleanor was the first to come over, with tears in her eyes and a huge smile. "My son," she said, hugging Owen, "get ready for something unforgettable." "Mom, you knew about this?" "Knew, sweetheart. I helped plan it. Your fiancée is a woman of initiative." Jessica showed up beside them, holding James. "Owen, you look like you've seen a ghost." "I have no idea what's going on." "What's going on is that Natalie decided you two waited long enough to get officially married, so she organized everything." "Everything what?" "You'll see," Jessica said with a mysterious smile. For the next hour, Owen greeted friends and family, everyone clearly in on some plan he knew nothing about. There were co-workers, including Chase, who apparently had forgiven Owen for the public embarrassment, Natalie's college friends, and even Dr. Rev Patterson, the obstetrician. "Doctor, why are you here?" Owen asked, confused. "Your fiancé invited me, said I was part of your story. Technically, you helped us bring our children into the world. It only seemed right to have you here when we officially get married." Owen turned to find Natalie behind him, holding a hand-painted wooden sign. "Natalie, what?" "Shh." She raised a finger to her lips. "It's my turn to talk." To his surprise, she stepped up onto a chair in the middle of the garden, holding the sign against her chest. "Everyone," she called out. "Can I have your attention?" The conversation stopped, and all eyes turned to her. "Thank you. So you might be wondering why you're here on a Friday night in the backyard of our new house, watching a woman who gave birth to twins 2 weeks ago climb onto a chair." Laughter echoed through the garden. "The answer is simple. Owen proposed to me a few months ago, and I said yes. But then our babies decided to arrive during the wedding cake tasting, and we ended up postponing everything." "Why is she telling our whole life story?" Owen whispered to Eleanor. "Because that's how she does things. Now hush and listen." "But I realized something important," Natalie continued. "Owen already had his chance to propose. He gave me a beautiful proposal in the park, with a ring and everything, very romantic and traditional." She turned the sign around, revealing big, colorful painted letters. "Owen Carter, will you marry me before the babies say mommy before daddy?" The garden burst into laughter and applause. Owen stood there, looking at the sign, then at Natalie, then at all the smiling faces around him. "Well," Jessica called out, "are you going to answer or keep her waiting?" Owen started laughing. Not a quiet chuckle, but a full, genuine laugh that filled the garden. "Natalie Ross," he said loud enough for everyone to hear, "you are the craziest, most unpredictable, and most wonderful woman I've ever met." "So is that a yes or a no?" "It's an absolute yes." He climbed up on the chair next to her and kissed her as everyone clapped and cheered. "Now you're officially engaged," Jessica announced. "Again." "And to make it official," said Eleanor, appearing with Emma and James in her arms, "the ring-bearers would like to do the honors." What followed was probably the most chaotic ring exchange in history. Emma started crying just as Eleanor tried to tie the little pillow with the rings to her hand. James spit up on Owen's ring. And when they finally managed to exchange rings, both babies decided it was time for a simultaneous diaper change. "Well," said Natalie, holding Owen's hand as Eleanor took the babies inside, "at least our official ceremony will be more traditional." "Official ceremony? You think I planned all this just to swap rings?" Natalie smiled. "Owen Carter, we still have a wedding to celebrate." That's when Dr. Patterson stepped forward, pulling a wallet from his pocket. "As it happens," he said, "in addition to being a doctor, I'm also a licensed minister, and I'd be honored to officiate this wedding if you're both ready." Owen looked at Natalie, then at the friends and family around them, then at the house where their babies were being changed by their grandmother, and his heart swelled with joy. "Natalie Ross," he said, taking both her hands, "will you marry me right now, here, in this crazy garden, surrounded by people who love us, and 2 babies who will probably cry through the whole thing?" "Owen Carter," she replied, tears in her eyes, "I couldn't imagine a more perfect way." The ceremony was everything Natalie had promised, epic, unforgettable, and completely theirs. Dr. Patterson gave a heartfelt speech about love growing in chaos. Eleanor cried through the entire thing. Jessica was the impromptu maid of honor, and Chase, surprisingly, was the stand-in best man. And yes, both Emma and James cried through the vows. "For that reason," Dr. Patterson said, raising his voice over the baby's wails, "I now pronounce you husband and wife, "Owen, you may kiss your bride." The kiss was met with cheers, joyful shouts, and the unmistakable sound of twins protesting all the excitement. "Welcome to married life," Eleanor said, handing the babies back to them, with built-in soundtrack included. During the party that followed, with music, homemade food brought by the guests, and lots of laughter, Owen and Natalie managed to steal a few moments alone on the porch. "So," he said, gently rocking Emma while Natalie nursed James, "we're really married now. Officially, legally, and with witnesses. And you pulled it all off by yourself, with help from your mom and Jessica, and basically everyone you know." Owen laughed. "How did I not notice you all were planning this?" "Because you were busy being a new dad and trying not to panic every time the babies made weird noises. They make a lot of weird noises." "Owen? Yes? Do you regret any of it? The voice message I messed up? The chaos we caused at work? Me turning your life upside down?" Owen looked at her, his wife now, the mother of his children, the woman who had turned his carefully managed life into a wonderful, chaotic adventure. "You know what I've learned?" he finally said. "What? That real love doesn't come from perfection. It comes from two imperfect people who refuse to give up." Natalie smiled, that bright smile that had captured his heart from day one. "Well," she said, "then we're on the right track, because we are definitely not perfect. Perfectly imperfect. And our kids will be too. I can't wait to see what kind of chaos they bring." Natalie laughed, looking out at the yard full of people they loved, at the house that would be their home, at the babies in their arms. "Well, Mr. Carter," she said, "get ready. Because with our family, the adventure is just beginning." And there, on the porch of their new home, surrounded by the sounds of laughter, music, and crying babies, Owen Carter realized he had found exactly what he never knew he was looking for. An imperfect, messy, absolutely perfect life. All because one day, a voice message was sent to the wrong group. And sometimes, the best mistakes are the ones that change everything for the better. What did you think of Natalie and Owen's story?
Join the conversation. Your comments and engagement are part of the healing process. Let us know your thoughts below. If this journey of resilience and turning pain into power resonated with your heart, please support Healing Stories. Subscribe. Help us build a sanctuary of strength by subscribing to the channel. Share the hope. Give this video a like and share it with someone who needs to hear this message of recovery and justice.